Oh, hi. It is time once again for the AEW Dynamite review here on the MrWarrenHayes Show podcast. How you doing? I'm Warren. Welcome to my neck of the woods as we break down the previous night's episode of All Elite Wrestling's flagship show, aka the Dynamite. That is probably the best intro I have done for this podcast, like in forever. I think this is legit. I think I've just set the bar for myself. That was tremendous. I got a little getting shivers. Am I turning into a pro? God, I hope not. I really don't. We're doing this. We're recording this on September 19, where we'll be talking about the September 18 Dynamite. But before we do, can I interest you in leaving a like here if you're watching this video on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify would be appreciated. And I know a lot of you already do, and I've already done it on the podcast side of things. But I appreciate any little support that you can give. It does help grow my silly little podcast. September 18, 2024, All Elite Wrestling's Dynamite, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, the Mohegan Sun Arena. It is the first time that AEW ran the venue. 2,936 tickets were distributed according to WrestleTix. This is an update that we got that WrestleTix made yesterday at the time that I'm recording this on Thursday. There hasn't been like a final count or anything, but so maybe they did get to 3,000, maybe they didn't. Still not a great number, right? Look, well, what else can you say about the attendance that I don't say every time we run into an attendance number that's not a pay-per-view show, where it's like, well, it's not great. It's just not great, and it's perpetuating next week, right? Like, this week, of course, was the Arthur Ashe lead-in show, right, to Grand Slam over there in the New York City, and hopefully it will have generated enough interest to give a little ticket sales boost, because again, based on an update that WrestleTix released yesterday, 5,121 tickets have been distributed in Arthur Ashe Stadium, which seats about 20,000. And last year, let us not forget, we had done like 11,000, a little over, like 11,200, 300, 400, something like that. And last year, people thought that was kind of not a disaster, but a little embarrassing, right? Because the previous iterations of Grand Slam had filled up the place, and it was absolutely tremendous. And then last year it was like just squeaked by having more than 50% of the arena filled. Now we're not even close to that. We're not even close to that. We have half the tickets distributed of the amount of tickets that were distributed last year, which was already half of the building or so. We can all get excited in regards to the AEW media deal, especially considering the details that came out earlier this week. We can all get super stoked about them, which is fine, because that will mean that running buildings not quite as full as they are, not quite as full as they've been over the past few months at this point, won't be that much of a financial disaster for the company. AEW will still probably be able to manage to hang on to solvency. But from a perception standpoint, you take a look at this thing, a 20,000 seat stadium that just a couple of years ago we were doing, full arena pan shots and so on and so forth. Now we've got a little over a fourth of the building filled out. It's not good, folks. Like, there's no way to spin this. There's no way to make this It's like, oh, well, this is not good. And if you did, and anyone who goes, oh, well, could have been worse, well, you're just making apologies. Because yes, it could always be worse, but this is pretty bad. This right here is pretty bad. But I don't want to harp too much on the ticket sales, because I want to talk about a Dynamite, which I enjoyed, which I really did enjoy. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good episode of Dynamite. Was it the kind that got your blood boiling for Arthur Ashe next week? I didn't know. Well, kinda, maybe. I mean, everything that needed to be, everything big that was being set up for Arthur Ashe was well followed through on, right? I just don't know if this is as hot as you'd expect it to be, as hot as you'd want it to be. And maybe so. Maybe this was the thing where it's like, okay, let's flip the switches, and all the switches have been flipped. And this week, AEW is going to push 5,000 tickets, right? Unless they pull some kind of tremendous magic, this great. They do a great PR run this week. They do all sorts of local media, and they're pushing out BOGOs and free tickets. They need to paper this now to get people into the building, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if everything that was done here will be successful, because I find that New York ticket buyers, or ticket buyers from New York, have a tendency to buy tickets for shows that are hot. They won't have an issue buying tickets if the product you're presenting is hot. And they usually will shy away from things that aren't necessarily like the big thing, because it's New York. Because if you decide to go to this one event on a Wednesday night, there's so much other stuff that you're missing out on. You want to see the thing, because it's New York. But why are we talking about attendance again? I don't know how I got back to this. I said I wouldn't talk about it too much, and here I am again. Because we were talking about, did this stoke the fires for a resurgence of people going into the show next week? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. You've got two big matches really announced for the card, which is Mox versus Darby and Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. And Moxley versus Darby is, I like the prospect of it. I don't know how much of a big drawing match it is, and I don't think it is, but I like the prospect of it. I like the idea of the stakes to it. I think it's going to be great, because Darby's going to bump his ass off to make Mox look like the maniac that he's turning into right now. And then on the flip side, Nigel and Danielson, which is very much a match for the sickos, as people like to say. This is a match that people have been clamoring for a while, but that I always knew in my heart of hearts. I was like, well, this is not going to, it's like when the people wanted this to happen at Wembley. I'm like, don't put this on Wembley. It's not that big a deal. It's not that big of a match. It's an interesting one, but, and I know a lot of people are blinded by their love of Nigel, and probably have fond memories from Ring of Honor, and that's fine. And don't get me wrong, I am thrilled that he's getting to wrestle again, and that he'll be wrestling his arch nemesis. So there's a lot of parts here, which on one hand I understand, the other hand that I understand, and I think it's a good little match. But again, it's not like this affair that's going to, bring in the masses. They're just going to be pushing against the doors to get into the building. You can argue with me, well, Warren, what in AEW does have that effect right now, and I'm like, you are completely right. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not trying to poo-poo on this match and saying, well, this is nonsense. What I'm saying is, how excited are we for these matches? And how excited is the viewing public for these matches as well? Because don't forget one thing. Here's the other thing, is that we're leading into Arthur Ashe with this match being one of these two matches. And last night they were saying, well, this match will happen, but only if Danielson has been cleared, right? Because they're trying to fix the fuck up they did last week when they had in one segment Mox come in and say to Darby, what was the word he used? Indisposed. He said Danielson is indisposed, so he's not going to be at Arthur Ashe. Might as well fight me instead and put up your thing up for grabs, your title shot. And then later on in the evening, having Nigel McGuinness come out and say, I have a match. I went to see Tony Khan, me versus Danielson at Grand Slam. And you're like, oh. And last week I was like, the messaging here is all over the place. What is going on? And then we move over to this week and we're still promoting Nigel versus Danielson, but with the asterisk saying, only if Danielson is cleared to compete. Now I'm like, look, this is one of your two potentially big drawing matches. Why are you setting doubt into the world that Danielson might not be there in a circumstance where you absolutely should be confirming Danielson is going to be there because you need ticket sales, because you need to put people in the building? Why are you casting doubt on this? Why are you putting a card subject to change up in big neon lights? Buy a ticket to come see Nigel versus Danielson, but Danielson may not be there. Now, and I know that quite probably, we're confident probably at 90% that they wouldn't be advertising the match if Danielson wasn't cleared, right? AEW has never, to this point in history, pulled a blatant bait and switch type scenario. So one would assume that the match is going to happen. But you understand how weird this is? You understand how bizarre it is when your company is in a position that has where ticket sales are a problem, where you have difficulty getting people into the buildings. You have trouble putting, getting close to even close to the numbers you were doing last year, and you decide to advertise a match that might not happen? Do you know how wacky that is? How it just doesn't make sense? Or is it just me? It can't be just me. Who's like, no, this is very weird. This is extremely weird. You should be putting all of your effort. Like, I would have had Danielson show up last night. Like, I understand he's selling the plastic bag bit, right? I understand that. I understand what he's doing, what they're doing with that, but bring him in, like dispel any issues. You probably know how this is going to go next week at Arthur Ashe. Nigel's going to come to the ring. He's like, we haven't heard from from Britt O'Brien the entire week, and I don't know if he's even here tonight. So referee, start the count. Like, it's going to be something like that, right? It's going to be something like that. And and then suddenly, either while he's cutting his promo or while the referee starts the match and starts the to count to 10, Danielson's music is going to hit, right? Like, that's exactly what's going to happen. And it's silly. It's silly if you were packing houses, if Arthur Ashe was filled to the brim, we wouldn't be having this conversation. On to the show. The show begins with Moxley, Shafir, and Claudio coming to the ring, coming to the building, I should say. Sans Pac notably absent. And then it cuts to Darby Allin skating in. Well, look who's here. I know last week. I know because I said it. But last week I had a significant rant, I guess, in regards to me wanting to see some fresh ideas in pro wrestling. Me wanting WWE to stay away as much as possible from WWE tropes. And I re-listened to it, and of course I clipped it and all of that because I wanted it out there. But I've kind of reached a point in my analysis where it's like I can't. If I sit here and point out everything that is very WWE like on Dynamite now, y'all are just gonna get fed up of me, and you're all gonna be, this is so one note. Like there's no depth to it, right? So when I saw, just arriving at the building and all that stuff, I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it's not even a WWE thing. It's something that hasn't changed in 30 years. Like, we are still presenting pro wrestling in the same way they did on Nitro. Like, Nitro established kind of like the way to present North American wrestling, right? And it's never really changed. It's the same thing. It's been the same thing throughout all this time. People arriving at the building, stepping out of cars, and I'm like, WWE, added its own flavors to that, but it's like the same thing. So I'm making I wouldn't call it a commitment because I know myself too well, but I think I'm only going to focus truly on the most egregious examples of AEW straight up aping WWE concepts and tropes, because otherwise I'd start off this review right here telling you, oh, here we go, all I want is fresh stuff, but no, it's like, here comes my WWE light, and I don't want to do that. Although you could argue I already did, but I don't want to do it because it's gonna get tiresome, and I know it's good, and I'm gonna get tired about it. But then again, like, I'm on the flip side, I'm like, well, is it my fault? If it's tiresome, then it's not necessarily my fault because they keep doing it and I'm tired about it. I'm tired of it. They keep doing the stuff, so I have to talk about it, and it's tiresome. It's tiresome to talk about it. It's tiresome to watch it. It's not my problem. But I also understand that as an audience joining me for these reviews, y'all kind of want a little more analysis than Warren pressing the WWE detector button and then scanning for all WWE tropes. I understand that. And that is also what I want to give you. So despite the fact that this super annoyed me, I come here, sit down, get prepared, look over my notes, and I'm like, look, I owe it to the audience to at least focus on what's really good, give some analysis on that, some thoughts, as opposed to digging up the same corpse all over again. I'm not going to do that, at least not this week, and I'm going to try and be more mindful of that. Let's see how long that lasts. That being said, Darby Mox come into the ring, and I don't want to give you the impression that I'm not excited for Darby versus Mox at Arthur Ashe. I just don't think it's at this stage, in the context of having a fourth of the building filled up and with a week to go, it's clearly not the match that is captivating everyone's imagination, right? That it's in this context, and I think you have to look at what you're booking at the same time. But again, like we said, like I also mentioned, what else in AEW could fill up this arena? And no one is wrong with all these arguments. There's a lot of right, and there's a lot of right, good points being pulled up. So, I just don't want to give the impression that I'm not looking forward to this match, because I am. And I think Darby is going to lose to Mox. I think Darby has to lose to Mox, actually. Because I think I think Darby versus Mox is a long game feud. I think this is one that you stretch out. You don't end this feud immediately. You don't bring this feud to a halt. If anything, Mox should injure out Darby. Like, he should beat him into the ground. Like, if the idea here is that we have this vicious psychopathic Mox, like we saw, on Dynamite last night, who's ready to do anything and everything to get what he wants, motive still not quite clear, like somewhat clear, but not 100% clear. If he's ready to do anything to get what he wants, imagine what he'll do to Darby. Imagine what he should do to Darby. And then you're like, oh, this is great. So he should pound Darby into the ground and make his statement on Darby Allin, who is a big baby face in the company, and maybe not a top guy, but one of the most over guys in the company, right? I think it would be a hell of a statement. And then Darby comes back and we can revisit this. I think Darby eventually beating Mox should be I think that's a great story to set up, and that should be the long game. And who knows, maybe Darby will even beat Mox for the title. But there's something there. And I don't think it should or will be blown off at Arthur Ashe. Anyway, we started the show with Orange Cassidy defeating Chris Jericho. This was good. This was miles better than Chris Jericho's other match this weekend, which was in Arena Mexico against Místico. We don't have to revisit that. I think Chris Jericho worked fine. I think he was amplified due to the fact that Orange Cassidy is one of the most consistently good workers in this company, who just made everything seem well put together, well thought out. It was a good match. Like, it was honestly a really good a real good match. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with a real good match. Jericho is who he is. Like, I still maintain, like I was talking about on the podcast this week when referencing the Místico and Chris Jericho match. I think that even though Chris Jericho's capacity to remain over and in conversations, right, by reinventing himself, which is he's got this incredible skill. Just when you think he's toast, he bounces back with something and it works and picks up steam. Despite all of that, I really do think that physically, I think he's washed. I think we've hit that moment. He wasn't doing anything spectacular here. A lot of what he was doing was reacting to Cassidy's moveset, and when he does do moves like the Code Breaker, they're always kind of sloppy. They're always kind of off, where you're like, okay, I think this is the situation. This is the reality that Chris Jericho physically just can't keep up. I think he's a tremendous personality in pro wrestling, and that will keep him over. As long as he continues to reinvent himself, I don't think he's going to have much of an issue. But, this wasn't necessarily his greatest hour, but it was so much better than what happened in CMLL last Friday. Like, it's not even close to a comparison. Match comes to an end when Brian Keith shows up, tosses a ring of quarters, not a ring, what do you call it? A roll. What did I call it? A ring? A roll of quarters. I don't know why I blanked out on that. He got a roll of quarters in his hands, referencing to the coins with the car last week, which still was stupid. And he tries to use the roll of quarters on Cassidy, but Cassidy avoids it, and actually he gets control of the roll of quarters and uses it in a Superman punch while the referee is distracted, so he gets the win. I thought this was a good opener. It was a good opener, solid match. And here's the other thing, right? Yeah, Orange Cassidy needs more of these types of wins. Even though Chris Jericho always loses, like legitimately always loses, there's Orange Cassidy needs to continue to establish himself as a guy in this company. I'm still baffled that he was never elevated, that he never changed lanes after his tremendous international title run. I still don't understand it. And he's still a guy who they call upon every week to go out there and work. It's phenomenal to me. And he's over. He's been over all the time. He's not even close to being the meme wrestler he used to be. Like, he's a great mix of both, of a great in-ring pro wrestler and the goofy personality he used to have. Well, that he still has, but used to be the centerpiece of everything he did, is what I'm trying to say. Then we get a video from last week of Pac and Claudio Castagnoli backstage calling out Wheeler Yuta, saying he's got to come to work to defend those titles. He's got a defense coming up at Arthur Ashe. Apparently, it's an open challenge. Then Jon Moxley pops into view to tell Wheeler that he thinks he has the strength in him to do the right thing. Well, it just so happens that Alex Marvez he bumps into Wheeler Yuta, who's on his way out of the building. Like, the show just started, Wheels. What you hitting the bricks already? And anyway, the idea in this promo is that Yuta's head isn't in the game right now, right? He says, "Yeah, I'll be there to defend the titles at Wrestle Dream," and Marvez goes, "No, that's an Arthur Ashe next week." And Yuta's like, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant." And a guy shows up with the title and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Yuta, you forgot your title." And Yuta goes, "Oh, yeah." I thought Wheeler Yuta's promo that he did, what was that, after Collision or Rampage this weekend anyway? I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was probably the best promo he's cut in AEW so far. This was fine, but yeah, because he basically says, "Yeah, I'm a fighting champion, so whoever, you point to who I have to beat up and I'll go. That's fine. I'll do what you ask me to." So that'll be a little story to tie us in that'll tie into Arthur Ashe next week. Roderick Strong joins the commentary table as Hook hits the ring to squash JD Inc. There's a guy who, if there's a guy who has earned that name, JD Inc., it's definitely this dude. He's got a lot of ink. Anyway, so it's a squash. After the match, Hook and Roderick Strong stare each other down. And we're moving on. Private Party are interviewed backstage, and they tell Claudio and his boys if they want to fight, they'll have a fight, and they'll see him next week for the trios belts, and we'll find a third. Okay. Then we got the Patriarchy backstage. Christian Cage says Nick Wayne is in a very big four-way match on Rampage, and he's decided that father and son will hold titles at the same time. And he takes a shot at Jon Moxley, forcing Renee to call him the reigning, defending, undisputed next AEW World Champion, which is tremendous. And then Kip Sabian, for some reason, is hanging around the production area of this segment, and Christian berates him. Says, "Next time I see you, I'm going to put you in the dirt next to your father." Alrighty. Queen Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki defeated Mariah May and Serena Deeb. This was okay, I guess. You know, I guess this was fine. I thought Yuka looked good, but is she nervous? I feel like she's like there's a little electricity that we're used to seeing that wasn't quite there. I don't know if she's just working the kinks because she has been wrestling. I'm not saying that Yuka Sakazaki is not wrestling, okay? But she hasn't been wrestling as much. This year she's only had 6 matches. Again, I understand she's been injured. She was hurt for a while. But even last year, she was she had about 36 matches. A lot of them are in the tag team stuff. Doing the magical sugar rabbits thing. Again, I'm not saying that Yuka is not, I'm not saying she's done, she's washed. I'm just like, seems to me she's crisper, more electric than this, a lot more fun. I thought this was fine. I still think Queen Aminata is someone that they should be banking on. I beg Serena Deeb to learn how to do the Paradise Lock before doing that shit again moving forward. I mean, it's a goofy wrestling hold to begin with, but you have to get the application right. I don't know, is it the people that are taking it who don't know how to, position themselves, position their hands? It's goofy. It looks goofy. We got to stop this. Mariah May forces a DQ in this match. I don't know why. She's sort of not involved in the match. Serena Deeb is trying to tag out and stuff, and Mariah is busy posing with the belt and all of that, and that kind of stuff. Everyone throws German suplexes on each other, which was pretty cool, don't get me wrong. And Yuka does a Northern Lights bomb on Serena Deeb, then suplexes Mariah May onto Deeb. Like I said, this was fine. It was a good little match. I'm not going to praise it to the moon. It was fine. And I really didn't like the finish. And I'm like, Mariah May should... This is what I've been saying, right? Since the start of Mariah May's reign. She's been hanging out with lower mid-carders, people from Ring of Honor. She should not be taking DQ losses to people who are not even high on the card. I know a lot of people like Yuka, and I like Yuka too, don't get me wrong, but she's not exactly a top person. She's not exactly a top woman in the division, right? And I know people are going to argue with me, what do you mean Yuka Sakazaki is not a top? But she's not. She's not. Top women in AEW's women's division right now are Mercedes Moné, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, throw in Britt into that, Toni Storm. That's your cream of the crop right there. Jamie Hayter, that's your cream of the crop right there. The rest, everyone else in the women's division is just sort of there. And Yuka is sort of there. And again, not necessarily her fault. She was injured. She's been out. But Mariah May should not be surrounded by the likes of Sky Blue and Queen Aminata and all these people, Serena Deeb, who all feel so under her because she's the champion. She should be mixing it up with others. Now she's slumming it out, and she's forcing DQs on people she should be beating handily. You know what I mean? Look, as it stands right now, I think everything that has happened to Mariah May since the turn has been a bust. I don't think I'm not taking anything away from her in-ring ability, her in-ring ability. I think she's a good worker. Don't get me wrong. But the presentation, the hype, it's been a bust. Sorry to say. After this, we get Amina Sharakawa pre-taped saying that she heard Mariah may call for her, but she doesn't recognize her anymore, and maybe they can still have good times. I don't know. Mina is coming. Isn't that nice? There's something that all the weirdos are going to clip. A technical glitch or two later, we get a video package on the history between Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson, which was actually pretty good. There's one advantage of owning the Ring of Honor library, right? Is that you can get some really cool footage out of this. And I liked how this portrait was painted, wherein Nigel is the guy. Nigel comes across as extremely sympathetic. It's like, he was on the sidelines, as they'd say, while Danielson's career exploded. And he was a guy that a lot of people saw the potential into he becoming one of the top guys in the world as well. Really achieving high levels of success like Danielson, right? And it's funny, they always said he was sidelined. They never mentioned the injury. They never mentioned why. He was sidelined, as if he was asked to go there and he complied, Moxley, Shafir, Castagnoli get to make their entrance to go to the ring, but they get ambushed by Private Party as they're coming through the crowd. But boy, oh boy, does Private Party eat shit. It's like they just eat. They just eat it tremendously. And Mox, it's to the point that Isiah Cassidy is wailing on him after the ambush, and Mox is completely no-selling it. And the funniest thing, I burst out laughing when I saw it. Then Marina Shafir takes care of Alex Abrahantes, and they have the microphone. Mox dumps out a toolbox, gets a hammer. Oh, and we had Commander try to do something. He was taken out. The point is, the crux of this little segment here is that Mox gets a hammer. He goes up to Cassidy, who's being held down by Shafir and Castagnoli, and he says, "Look, I could end your careers right here, but I'm not going to do that. You guys have been here from day one, 5 years ago, and 5 years later, you're still in the same spot." So he's going to give them a little friction, a little obstacle to overcome. He says, "This is my gift to you," or something like that. And he just cracks the hammer across Cassidy's hand. Tremendous. Darby Allin runs in for the save, swinging El Skateboardo. They tease a confrontation in the ring, but Mox takes a powder. And Darby cuts a quick little promo on Mox as it's all done. He's going to become AEW World Champion. Yada, yada, yada. Fantastic segment. That was absolutely tremendous. Just tremendous. I like how we have these subplots to a lot of these larger overarching stories, right? I like these subplots that we're starting to get. Trust me, the people who say this company doesn't do stories honestly do not watch this show. You've got Private Party who got beat up unceremoniously last week, and they're like, "Okay, we want our pound of flesh. We want our revenge," which is intertwined into the Darby Mox story, which is a part of the bigger story of Mox coming for the world championship, i.e. Bryan Danielson. It's also good. Like, this is good, and it's good, proper storytelling that is told in a way that makes sense, that's fueled with some good old-fashioned hate and resentment and anger. That's what's good about the Nigel thing, too. The Nigel thing is fueled from jealousy and envy. Just no fucking charm bracelets, None of that bullshit. No one, oh, he stole my jacket or all that. Nothing like that. Just, I don't like you and I really don't like you. And this guy's a psychopath and you wish he'd like you right now. Tremendous angle. I thought it was a lot of fun. Keeps adding. Look, here's the thing. Mox is going to continue to be. Mox in 2024 so far has been a misstep in AEW. It'd be hard to disagree. I think that, ever since he came into the company, and especially the Blackpool Combat Club, he has always been part of the most interesting things in the company. And here we go again. It's been like this for the past couple of weeks since the return, since choking out Danielson with the plastic bag. It's all been fascinating, like legitimately fascinating. Here he is once again in the center of the most interesting things happening in AEW right now. And I hear, of the legitimate arguments. I must say, I don't want to hand wave them. Strickland's not even here. Where is he? Like, you're doing all this stuff and Strickland's not even around. MJF's not even around, which adds much more focus and gravitas to whatever they're doing here. Right? There's that advantage to these two guys not being around. These two top guys of the company not exactly being around. Great stuff. It's just great stuff. We get a scapegoat video package. That's fine. Then we get the Ricochet versus the Beast Mortos. This was a lot of fun, as I expected. I was really excited to see Ricochet use this incredible base of the Beast Mortos. This incredible lucha base. And you know what? Look, I thought this worked. It was another great match, great pairing, and a great match for Ricochet. But the things I remember the most in this match are the things that Beast Mortos does. It's like those effortless, high speed lucha arm drags. I'm like, holy shit! And him catching Ricochet off of like a spinning senton or whatever, like not quite a tope con hilo. I'm like, my God! And the avalanche body press. You just have to wonder if this match didn't have the opposite effect of, if it didn't have the opposite effect of people wanting to see more of Beast Mortos as opposed to more of Ricochet. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Destroyer on the floor off of I think they wanted to do I think that came off of a bit of a whiff because I think they wanted to do the spot again where Ricochet does the top rope flip and then Beast Mortos catches him again. But I think the plan was to follow through with a Destroyer. I think that was ultimately the plan, but Ricochet ended up on the floor, like Beast Mortos couldn't hang on to him. No, I mean, but other than that, like Ricochet looks great. Like, don't get me wrong. And, you'd be a fool to not be excited for Will Ospreay versus Ricochet either. Like, this was a lot of fun. I gave this a hearty 3.5 stars. I thought this was tremendous. I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm like, I finished watching that. I'm like, why isn't Beast Mortos TNT champion? That would be bold. Just have Beast Mortos, strap up Beast Mortos with the TNT title, reinvigorate that shit, and just have him run through people week after week. Like the Beast Mortos Open Challenge, where he's just mowing down fools. And it would be believable. And then you could throw hologram at him again, and they could have another tremendous match. Just saying. Then we get a Hangman Adam Page video package, and then Tony Schiavone's in the ring, and he welcomes Hangman Adam Page to said ring. Page says he's watched and listened for a long while because he knew a day like this would come when Swerve Strickland was dealt with, and he'd be gone. And he knew it wasn't just Swerve who needed to pay. There's dozens and dozens of people who stood by him, who protected him or supported him. And then he, like Tony Schiavone, and he sort of starts to prowl on Tony. Tony begs off. Bree woo. Jeff Jarrett makes the save. And Jarrett and Hangman brawl until security run in to do the pull apart. And this was a very good pull apart. Like, as much as I don't care about Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett, this is clearly a feud set up for all the goofs who were so upset that Jeff Jarrett didn't go ahead and move forward in the Owen, because the right decision to do was to have Hangman Page beat him, because that was the right decision. It's for all the goofs who've been clamoring, oh, Jeff Jarrett needs to get his due. Well, there you go. He's going to get it, right? And despite me feeling that way, where I'm like, oh my God, this is actually happening, I thought this segment was amazing. I thought the pull apart was great. And Jarrett, being the pro that he is, right? He's like, he never really wanted to stop going after Hangman. So even when they're both, like, Hangman is being pushed up the ramp and Jarrett is in the ring, he's still breaking apart and slipping out of the ring. So the guards have to go after him. Like, that's just little attentions to details when it comes to these pull-aparts. Because we've seen, not that long ago, we've seen pull-aparts, for instance, from Tony Storm and Mariah May, where I'm like, well, come on, let's go. It's a pull-apart. You women are supposed to hate each other viscerally. Why? And then they both get sequestered in their corners and nothing really else happens. Why? Why aren't you tearing at each other? Jarrett here was like a caged animal. He was like, let me at him. I'm ready to tear his face off. It's fantastic. Like, it was legitimately fantastic. So he finally gets a microphone, and he says, he does the babyface thing of protecting Tony Schiavone, saying, lay a single hand on Tony and he'll be at the front of the lines to kick your ass or something like that. And then he says that if it's the last thing he does in his career, he's going to kick your ass. And that was a very a missed opportunity to land in a slap nuts. I'm sorry. But look at that. Babyface, big blue-eyed babyface Jeff Jarrett in 2024. Who'da thunk? Great segment again. I can't say that this is not well done, because it's well done. This was great. Again, you just lean into it. The hate, the anger. We go backstage. Will Ospreay and Ricochet are chit-chatting, and, Will says no hard feelings, and Ricochet's like, hold on, partner. You've been telling me to get my wins up. Well, I've been doing that. Everybody here is more worried about Ricochet than they are Will. So, that kind of stuff. And he says, next week, I know you're busy doing your thing with your boy trying to bring the United Empire back. But the week after, on the 5th anniversary of Dynamite, it's going to be me and you, brother. I went to Tony Khan and got the deal signed. So on the anniversary show, we're getting Ricochet versus Will Ospreay for the international title. I could not be more pleased. I think this is great. And people are feeling miserable about it. And, it's too soon. They should have waited. And this mentality of they should have saved it for the pay-per-view. It's as if people don't understand. It's as if people don't understand that the business has evolved since 1985. And AEW still makes a substantial amount of money for the pay-per-views. But the money's in the TV deals. And also, if you want to bank in on some of the rumors, there might be an announcement next week for the new TV deal. So you go with that. You're starting off. You're celebrating a full 5 years of AEW Dynamite, and AEW existing, right? But AEW Dynamite specifically here. You want people excited. You want people to be into it. They'll have heard about the TV deal. There'll be all sorts of news. The fifth anniversary. You want people to tune in and get excited for the 5th anniversary. You want this TV deal to be meaningful. You want to show. Look, we're going to put our best foot forward so we can get as many viewers as possible. Why not go with Will Ospreay and Ricochet if you got it? Go for it. You don't have to wait. I am very much a proponent of, if you got the match, do it, as opposed to the opposite. Because they had Red Dragon versus the Bucks. They never did it. Never happened now either. They have the match, do it. And I think it's a great idea to do it at the anniversary. Again, should they have kept it for the pay-per-view? Okay, maybe. But the business, the wrestling business is about media deals now. It's about the media deals. So you make this happen. Also, I thought it's been kind of silly for, Will and Ricochet to be like, yeah, I've been getting my wins up. I've been getting my wins up when the rankings have been completely eliminated from AEW. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can give a title shot to whoever. Whoever wants a title shot can get it. You can rotate people in and out just like the other guys, I promise. I'll be careful. I'm not going to go into it too hard. But this is... But you can just cycle whoever you want in and out. The rankings don't matter anymore. Wins and losses don't matter anymore. You can put whoever you want in those spots. There's no more rankings. The one thing that made you different, the one thing that made you really interesting, that did have a sports-based feel to it. No, you're not using it anymore. It's gone. I'm not complaining about Ricochet and Will. I'm saying that it's silly to mention, go out there and get some wins when there's no rankings, and you can just pull up whoever and put them in a spot instead of, building them up. Anyway, good little segment, and the show finished on the Don Callis family duo of Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, along with Will Ospreay, defeating the Elite, ergo the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada. What a great match! The truest tradition. Let's hammer this home, folks. The truest tradition of AEW wrestling is their great multi-man matches. The great trios matches, the 8-mans, the 10-mans. That is the great tradition of AEW. So much stuff was going on here. They got, and another, look, let's start with this. Another great straight up match by the Bucks. No nonsense, no weird props, no items being used, no sneakiness. Just another great straight up match by the Bucks, showing once again how fucking innovative they are. That slingshot stomp into the sit out power bomb. I was like, there we go. That's what you want. That's what you expect from the Jacksons, actually. That's the kind of shit where you're like, yeah, this is why you guys are one of the greatest tag teams of all time. This is why you guys are the best team of the 2010s. You guys. And this, like, I feel we're so close. I feel we're this close to the big nationwide Young Bucks run. We're so close. They had a great match at the pay-per-view at All Out against Claudio and Wheeler. Again, just straight up, no nonsense. Just having a great wrestling match. And now in this context here, same thing. They're not being clowns. There's always a little clowny aspect to the Bucks, don't get me wrong, but it's not permeating the match. It's not keeping them from working. It looks great. They wrestle great. It's all good. I get excited about it. And look at all the stories that have been set up in this match, in one match that lasted 21 minutes. A fantastic match, by the way. Let's underscore that. And a great 21-minute match that didn't even feel like that. Look at all the stories they've set up here or continue to move forward. Again, Ospreay and Okada. Okada and Take Soup. Take Soup and Ospreay. The United Empire finding its footing in AEW versus the Callis family, right? The Don Callis family at the same time. All these little morsels that are peppered throughout this match that are all just like that are all just waiting to be devoured, that eventually will all lead to something in one shape or another. That's why I keep praising AEW when they do these matches, and I keep telling y'all, the best way to tell your stories in pro wrestling is in the ring, and the 6-man, 8-man tags are perfect for that kind of stuff, for laying the groundwork, for adding some story beats, from just giving us more, for enticing us more at the idea of Ospreay fighting all of these guys, or Okada versus Takeshita one-on-one. And Takeshita in this match, like, look at this guy. He's like Okada, Ospreay, and he's got issues with both of them. He is acting like the alpha. I'm like, finally, I'm starting to feel like Konosuke Takeshita is a top guy in this. Excuse me, I'm tripping over my words. He's finally starting to feel like a big deal. The guy coming off of a big G1 performance, coming back to AEW, and you can tell he feels and looks the part. He feels grandiose again. God damn. He is one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. And he's in AEW. Like most of the best wrestlers in the world are. There's a lot of them in AEW. Maybe not most, but there's a lot of them in AEW. He's another one, but he's a guy who should absolutely get these spots. And I feel we're getting there. And we're doing this wonderfully, perfectly. It's the kind of storytelling that drives me, that I'm like, you're not taking me for an imbecile. So I can see what's going on. I have to observe. I have to pay attention. You don't have to shove it down my throat. I see what you're doing. And I see what you're doing with Takeshita. I see that you're starting to heat him up. You've got plans for him. And I can only support that. Because of course you've got plans for Will. You've probably got plans for Okada. We're excited to see them, don't get me wrong, but you probably have plans for Okada. You know, you have plans for the Bucks. And all this is going to tie in together at some point. Like, all of these people are all going to have these great little feuds moving forward. I am so excited about this, about the result of this match. I mean, and next week the Bucks versus Ospreay and Fletcher. That's a match of circle. I'm sorry. Like, now that I've seen that the Jacksons are back in working mode, I'm a lot more into this match than if it happened 2 months ago. I mean, now it's a different story. I'm into it. This is a very good episode of Dynamite. Let's do a quick preview of AEW Grand Slam next week. There might be spoilers here. In fact, there will be at least one. But this is what we have. So far. We have, of course, Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Maybe if Bryan Danielson is ready to compete, because we're not going to tell you we don't like selling tickets. The Jacksons versus Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher for the AEW World Tag Team titles. We are getting Hook versus Roderick Strong. And here's the spoiler. You've been warned. Saraya is going to be fighting Jamie Hayter. This was announced on the Rampage tapings. And the match is going to be a Saraya's Rules match. Oh, goody. I mean, it'll be so. Look, that's the card. That's our big Grand Slam card for next week. So, are you excited? Are you snoozing on it? Let me know in the comments, or reach out to me on Blue Sky, or join us in the Discord, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description below. And we are going to wrap it up on that today, folks. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me.